Hey everyone, today I want to share my thoughts on BBC One's new drama, The A Word. Now it started last night at 9 p.m. and it follows a family's journey as their 5-year-old son is diagnosed with autism. Now, before I go into this, I just want to mention that every single person on the autistic spectrum is different. No two people will have the same experiences. No two people will have the same quirks, difficulties and issues as a whole. There might be one or two things that are the same, but generally speaking, everybody's package, if you like, is different. So I've got a few things I want to say. The first thing is, it seemed to me that the BBC researchers missed the fact that it can take years for a child to get a diagnosis. It seemed to be that they went to see a doctor and then the next appointment they got a diagnosis. So I'm really hoping that as the series goes on, the BBC will expand on that and explain that perhaps he had seen, specialists and all kinds of things before the show started. The second thing I want to mention is the young actor who plays Joe, the child with autism. Now I can't recall his name off the top of my head, but he was amazing. He did so well, and I literally had tears in my eyes at times because I could see how Sam is. I could see that in Joe, so I think he did amazingly, and he deserves a good thumbs up there. The third thing is, I don't want to give too many spoilers away in case you've not seen it, but at one point Joe smacks his dad. He's overwhelmed and anxious in a situation, and he smacks his dad, and when that happened I literally burst into tears. I was sobbing. It brought home so many emotions for me because Sam, my son, struggles so much with overwhelming situations, very social situations, and I've been on the receiving end of so many incidents where he's lashed out, and it really my heart broke almost for the characters. The next thing I want to mention is, at one point Joe isn't invited to another classmate's birthday parties, and it becomes apparent that he's being excluded socially, and again that really upset me. Sam goes to a special needs school, so thankfully we haven't experienced that. My 3-year-old Sydney, she goes to a mainstream school, so we're seeing how it is in a mainstream situation for a normal child, and so many of these parties and things Sam wouldn't be able to handle anyway. So although it is upsetting that Joe, the character, isn't being invited to these parties, at the same time I think his parents are more upset than he is. And at one point the parents actually gate crash a child's birthday party. They're all playing football in the park and Joe's not invited, so they kind of go along with a picnic, and that's the scene when Joe has the meltdown and lashes out at his dad. And that, to me, I was just like thinking, oh god, no, don't do it, because Sam's anxiety in that kind of a situation, they were almost forcing him to play football when he really didn't want to do that. Now, my normal child, if I tried to make her do something that she didn't want to do, whether it was play football or something like that, she'd have a tantrum. So trying to get a child with autism to do something that they're not comfortable doing, it's just like, oh! So it was brilliant that they showed that. But at the same time, I really hope as the series goes on, they show how the parents begin to embrace the things that Joe's great at, like his music, which the dad seems really proud of, the mum not so much. I hope they start to embrace that and build on that. But equally, I hope that they can accept the things that Joe isn't perhaps so keen on and isn't so great at, and I hope they can kind of just accept that that's Joe, and going to a birthday party isn't something that he enjoys. Another thing I want to mention is that Joe seems to have quite high functioning autism in some ways compared to Sam. He speaks, for example, he's in a mainstream school. They told him to go upstairs and get dressed at one point. I could never do that with Sam. The bit at the start where he's walking unsupervised through the Lake District down a road, I was kind of like going, oh my god, he's going to get hit by a car. The idea of letting my normal, again, sorry I keep saying that, child walk down that kind of a road gives me a hernia. So a child with ASD who's perhaps not got the danger awareness, it really made me kind of go, ugh. So in a lot of ways, Joe does seem to be higher functioning compared to my child. So again, that's something to bear in mind, that if you know one child with autism, you know one child with autism. As I mentioned earlier, they're all different, they've all got different needs, different strengths, different weaknesses, and it's important to remember that the things that Joe can do doesn't necessarily mean all children on the spectrum can do those things as well, because that is just not the case. The next thing I want to mention is my big piece of advice. If you've not watched this yet and you're going to, have tissues to hand. As I mentioned, I was a blubbing mess. So do have tissues to hand, you will need them. And finally, just want to say that it does look like it's got the potential to be a brilliant series that could really help raise autism awareness, as long as the BBC do build on the story. There were certain bits that I think weren't necessary. There was a couple of scenes involving relatives, for example, Joe's uncle and aunt in bed. Really didn't need to see that. The noises would have been sufficient for the story. So I just hope that the BBC focus on the right parts of the story and don't kind of go off on tangents. The balance of humour was really good. I did really enjoy that as well. So yeah, that's my thoughts as a mum of a child with autism, and I do just want to lastly say apologies for the state of me today. I'm absolutely shattered. It's 1 PM now. Sam's had me up since 10 to 1 this morning, so I'm really feeling it. But I did want to get this video out today because I think it's important to get it out as soon as the episode went out. And I do just want to say thanks for watching. If you've liked this video, by all means give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and feel free to share. Thanks. Bye.